Okay, so let me start off by thanking the organizers for putting together this very nice program and for allowing me this opportunity to tell you about our new work. So I'm going to tell you about exact volume law entangled states in a large class of spin models. The main reference for this work is this preprint that we posted on the archive late last year. And we are open to feedback, so this is not yet published, so any feedback is welcome. Okay, so just to set some backdrop and context for this work, thermalization in interacting quantum systems is governed by this hypothesis called the eigenstate thermalization hypothesis. So thermalization is a subsystem phenomenon. So what can happen is if you take a big system and you look at a subsystem, then let's say I call the subsystem A and rest of the system B, then B can act like a bath to A. Okay, and then you can talk about what is the reduced density matrix of A at long times. And what ETH postulates is this reduced density matrix goes to a thermal density matrix. And this is particularly a thing that happens in the middle of the spectrum. So ground states, for example, are special. So we are not going to talk about what happens to ground states. We are primarily going to look at states that are in the middle of the spectrum. And for all the models that I'm going to tell you about today, there is this symmetry called spectral reflection symmetry that will exist. So for every stated energy E, you will have also a partner stated energy minus E. So a state that is at zero energy or near zero energy is in the middle of the spectrum. Okay, so for ETH basically postulates that if you compute expectation values of local operators in eigenstates, then they are equivalent to expectation values that you get in a thermal density matrix. So although we have like very overwhelming evidence in support of ETH from numerics, there is still no proof. So I mean, nobody doubts ETH, but it'd be nice to get some handle on some exact states where you can demonstrate ETH to hold. So another diagnostic of thermalization is this fact that if you look at the entanglement entropy of the subsystem, then how does it scale as I increase the size of the system, size of the subsystem? So for chaotic or ergodic or thermalizing systems, what we believe happens is that the entanglement entropy scales as the volume of this. So for example, if you look at one dimension, then if you look at the box of length L, let's say the subsystem A is of length L, then this goes as L itself. And this should be contrasted with other things like many body localization that you heard about in the morning, where this entanglement entropy goes as L to the D minus 1. So it's like one level less than volume law. And this is kind of what makes it difficult, because if the entanglement entropy grows very quickly, then there's a lot of information in the state. So it's difficult to like write down an analytic expression for a volume law entangled state. So some volume law entangled states have been known for some time. So one of these examples is what are called rainbow scars. So just as the name suggests, this pattern of entanglement is constructed as follows. So what you do is you take a system in one dimension of length L. So here is an 8-site system. And you make bell pairs between sites that are related by mirror reflection about the origin. So 1 and 8 are in a bell pair, 2 and 7, 3 and 6, 4 and 5 are in bell pairs. And now it's easy to see that if I look at a subsystem, let's say I take these, I make a cut which keeps these 3 in one and the other 5 in the other, then this state has entanglement which is 3 log 2, because every bell pair gives you log 2 entanglement, and I'm cutting exactly as many sites as there are bonds that cross this. But one curious thing is that this is not true for all bipartitions. So if I had just taken these two as my bipartition, then this would be completely disentangled. So it's not the case that for all contiguous bipartitions you get volume law entanglement. And also like making these as eigenstates of Hamiltonians is usually difficult. So you have to cook up something like XYZ spin chain with next nearest neighbor ZZ interaction and so on. So it's somewhat unrealistic. Then very recently, there was a nicer example of volume law entangled states that was constructed. These are so-called EAP states. So this stands for entangled antipodal pair states. So what you do is that you take a one-dimensional system on a ring, and you make bell pairs between antipodal points. So the north and south are in a bell pair, east and west are in bell pair, and so on. And then here it's easy to see that now if I make a bipartition where I take a set of continuous sites, let's say these 3 sites, then the entanglement that this has with the rest of the system is exactly 3 log 2, because I'm going to cut 3 bonds. Each bell pair is going to give me log 2. And if I look at what is the reduced density matrix on this subsystem, it's going to match the infinite temperature state, because these 3 sites are not at all correlated with each other. And what you can do is, because these are all spin half particles, you can just brute force search. So what you can do is, let's say, assume that this is the state you want to make. I look at all nearest neighbor Hamiltonians, and I have just some polymatrices to search over. You can actually come up with a Hamiltonian which actually stabilizes this as an exact zero energy eigenstate. So you can just do an exhaustive search to get something like this. So what we thought about doing was, can we set up some general criteria where such a state will exist given the Hamiltonian? And indeed you can. So this is what we have. This is the main result of our work. So let's say you consider a broad class of spin S chains of size L. So this doesn't even have to be spin half. It can be any spin S chain. And there is translation invariance and periodic boundary conditions. And what I do is I write the Hamiltonian as sum over some coupling constant times on-site terms. And each of these on-site terms describes an interaction between n spins. And this interaction takes this particular form where you take a spin at some site I and take it to some power q. Okay, and I define this Hamiltonian in the basis, the usual computational basis, which is of size 2s plus 1 locally. So let me just give you a couple of examples. So let's say if you have spin half Hamiltonians, then the local dimension is 2, and you can span that with just 0 and 1 states. So for two sides, these are all the basis states that you can write down. So what all Hamiltonians are allowed in this way? So it turns out that this is actually not an exhaustive list of writing down all possible Hamiltonians for spin S. So the Hamiltonians of these kinds are allowed. So you can take SIX to some power 2, but you cannot take two terms at the same site. Okay, so this is not allowed. But one nice thing is that for any spin half, this is exhaustive, because for any spin half, any product of polymatrices is a single polymatrix. So for any spin half system, you can write down Hamiltonians of this kind. Okay, so this is the main result. So if each of the terms in the Hamiltonian anti-commutes with an operator, which I write as C times K. So K is the standard complex conjugation operator, and C is the product of on-site invertible operators. This is the main condition. So H should anti-commute with CK. Then what one can prove is that if you write down a state lambda C on a system of size 2L, so I started with a system of size L, I can now write an exact eigenstate in a system of size 2L, which is written in this complicated manner, then that would be an exact zero energy state of the Hamiltonian. That one can demonstrate. So here I bar is just I plus L. That's just my notation for what I plus L is. And the way this works is that if you look at what the Hamiltonian does in the I plus 1 bond, then the action of it is exactly cancelled in the I bar plus 1 bond. That's what happens. Okay, so this is a bit of a mouthful to follow, especially for the last talk of the day. So I'm going to now just illustrate what happens through pictures. Okay, so this is basically what you have to do. You put sites on a ring and you make these bell pairs, or in general any correlated states across antipodal points. So this is what is my notation for these bonds. And these don't even have to be on a nice geometry like a ring. You can just have any pairing, any sites located anywhere. As long as they have this sort of pairing pattern, this result will go through. Okay, so first let me show that this state is volume law entangled. I mean, that is fairly simple because I am only pairing antipodal points. So if I make I take a continuous set of sites, then I'm going to cut exactly as many dimers as there are number of sites. So the volume, so the entanglement is going to be proportional to the number of sites. And the prefactor will just be determined by what C is. Okay, so that's easy to see. Another thing that one can readily show is that this state is actually thermal for strictly local observables. Again, because of the fact that there is no correlation here. But if you consider non-local observables, so let us say I look at what is the correlation between this site and that site, that will be perfectly correlated. So for non-local observables, there is some correlation. But for local observables, this is just going to look strictly thermal. Okay, so one corollary that I wanted to show was if you take a Hamiltonian that's purely imaginary, then C being identity does the job for you. So that will actually, with that you can actually reproduce this EAP state. So you didn't need to do an exhaustive search. With just this condition, you can actually get this entangled antipodal pair state. Okay, then there are many other examples that we have worked out in our paper, and let me just leave what all we can do in the future on the slide, and I'll be happy to take questions.
Questions? Okay, so let's just thank the speaker.